Hello, my Italian food fanatics. Today we're going to make a special pesto. It's inspired by the Amalfi coast and Sicily because we're using lemons and pistachios with a little bit of 100% California extra virgin olive oil, and of course they are California pistachios as well. But we're also going to take a little thing out of northern Italy and make fresh pasta as well. You saw me plate it up. Put those chives on there, a little Parmigiano-Reggiano, and let me tell you, it is delicious. I tasted a little bit of it prior to doing this, and this is the final dish, as you can see. And now we're going to give it a final taste. But before I do that, I want to show you how to make it. Please hit the thumbs up button, subscribe, like, share, ring the bell so you'll know when I release another video, because I do, 5 days a week on most weeks. Okay, literally every day, Monday through Friday. When my schedule doesn't permit it, I can't, but I try to do something a little bit different, a little bit something cool for you every day. And some of them are longer than others, some of them are a little bit shorter, but I hope you learned something. I hope you like it. I hope that you enjoy it. Please leave a comment, and let's get into the kitchen right now, and let me show you how to make this. See you on the other side. All right, my Italian food fanatics, let's get started with making some fresh pasta. We need to get our flour here. Now this is a 00 flour. This is Caputo flour that's made specifically for making fresh pasta. All right, I don't like to normally endorse a product, but they do a good job. But believe it or not, they use wheat from North America when they make their pasta. Pardon me, they use wheat from North America when they make their flour. It's a combination of a lot of different flours that go into making this. And so we're going to add some egg into here, like you do with regular pasta. All right, and we'll also add some salt. And we just mix that up. In fact, I'm going to use a fork. You know what? Doesn't matter. I'm going to use a spoon. Makes no difference. This is a very small amount of pasta, as you can tell, but you don't have to make tons of pasta dough. You can make small amounts because, believe it or not, here in North America, buying this flour from Italy is not exactly the least expensive option that we have. So you can make it with AP flour. I'm just making it in the traditional way here, using the type of flour that they would use over there. There's many manufacturers and mills that put together flour that can be used for pasta in Italy. The Caputo is just one of them. They make a variety of different flours, and they're not necessarily better than American flour, believe it or not. But this is, again, we're Italian food fanatics here, and we're going to use Italian product when it's appropriate. All right, we have a central milling here. We have a lot of different mills that produce excellent flour, and we'll get into that more potentially when we get into how to make pizza. So we're just going to turn this out now onto the board, and we're going to knead for about 8 to 10 minutes, and I'll be back while we do that. All right. So let's just turn this out. And we're going to get as much of that goodness as we possibly can off of there. And off the spoon. And then we just begin to knead and collect everything like this. All right, I don't think you really have to sit and watch me do all of this, but if you want to, you can. I'm going to maybe fast forward through some of this stuff. You know what? I'm not going to do that. This is about as easy as it gets. I mean, there's no rocket science here. We're going to pick up the loose flour, and whatever doesn't stick to our bowl at the end of it makes no difference. But we also want to wait. The reason for the 8 to 10 minutes is so that the flour can get properly hydrated from the egg. all right? Right now is not an indication of where we should be. In fact, not even close. So we'll come back in about 8 to 10 minutes when I'm done kneading this, and we'll see where we're at. See you in a bit. All right, my Italian food fanatics, it's been about 10 minutes, and you can see how different this pasta is now. This is the pasta dough. I'm going to form it into a disc just like this. I'm going to cover it in plastic wrap. I'm going to put it in the refrigerator for about a half an hour so that it will rest. You can see when I press down, see how it comes back up, it comes back together. We want to eliminate that. We're not going to eliminate it, but we want to mitigate that. So I'll put this in the refrigerator and we'll be back in a half an hour. All right, my Italian food fanatics, we are back. I have let the pasta dough rest. I've actually cut it in half. I have the other half in the refrigerator. And this half we are going to use to make some pasta. Now, I have a regular pasta machine, the one that you crank. I also have one that works with a KitchenAid mixer. And then we have this method here, which is very traditional. It's called a rolling pin. And so the reason why I'm doing it this way is to show you that it doesn't matter who you are or where you're at. If you have a rolling pin and a little bit of desire to make this, you can. All right? You don't need any special machines. You don't need any of that stuff. You just need some flour, some eggs, and some wood, a rolling pin. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll this out. And it's true, we don't have any indicator of how thin it is or whatever. You're going to have to judge that on your own. I'm not going to take you through this whole process of rolling out the dough, but I will tell you that when you do roll it out, I don't have the traditional, I have this is a French rolling pin. It's tapered at the ends. Makes it a little bit easier to do some of the work, but it doesn't matter. You can have one that's symmetrical as well. I have one of those. I just prefer to use this particular one because I'm used to it. However, you can see what I'm doing. I'm just rotating the pasta disc and rolling it thinner and thinner and thinner. And when I'm done rolling it out, we will come back, okay? All right, my Italian food fanatics, you can see how, as we're progressing here, the sheet of pasta is becoming thinner and thinner and thinner. And what I like to do is I like to work from the center out this way and then out this way. You give it a little bit of a turn. Work it from the center out this way, a little bit of a turn, and continue on. All right, if you have any issues or whatever, use the same flour that you used to make the pasta, and it will work. Now, occasionally, you work this too much, it's going to freeze up on you a little bit and not spread out as much as you want. Then you can let it rest and then come back at it. All right? But here we go. I'll be back. Okay, my Italian food fanatics, you can see how beautifully thin I have rolled this out. And now we'll cut it into pasta. We'll be back. All right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of square this off a little bit. Just like that. And we'll cut here a little bit too. So it's kind of a square. All right, and then we'll roll this up from both sides. So we're going to roll here. And then we'll roll from over here. And I'm going to turn it this way so you can actually see. I'm going to cut pasta Now, what is the advantage of using fresh pasta as opposed to dry pasta? Just in my opinion, you're probably going to get a lot of people that disagree with me, but in my opinion, it's just something that's a little bit fresher. It's different. Cooks a lot faster, but there's no harm in using fresh versus dry. There's no real big difference, essentially. Well, there is kind of a difference, but the texture is going to be different. The flavor is going to be different. There's a lot more flavor in fresh-made pasta than some of the El Cheapo pasta that you find at the grocery store. But there you go. That's fresh pasta. How sweet it is. We'll cover that up and keep it hydrated while we make our condimenti, our sauce, and bring our water to the boil. Be back in a few minutes. All right, my Italian food fanatics, now it's time for us to make the sauce. But first, we're going to start with our water for the pasta. You know me, I like to put in 4 cups of water. We don't want to use a lot of water to make this pasta. And then we are going to take a vegetable peeler and peel the skin of 2 lemons into the water. And we're going to bring the water to a boil with these skins in it, along with a little bit of sugar. If we were on the Amalfi Coast, we wouldn't use the sugar because their lemons are naturally sweet. But here we do. We'll bring this to the boil. We'll take out the peels, and then we're going to add in our salt to cook our fresh pasta. All right, let me put this on the stove so you can see. All right, my Italian food fanatics, we have our pot with our lemon peel or zest on the stove. And now we're going to bring it to a boil. When it comes to a boil, like I said, we're going to strain that out. Not going to strain it, we'll take them out, and then we'll add a little bit of salt, and we're ready to go. But in the meantime, while this comes to a boil, we have time to make our pesto. All right, my Italian food fanatics, now we're going to make our pesto. Our pesto is going to be made a little bit differently than normal. We use the rind or the zest of a couple of lemons, obviously some Parmigiano-Reggiano. We're going to add a little bit of sugar in there for the same reason why we added sugar into the pasta water, is because these are not lemons from the Amalfi Coast. They're not as sweet as they are over there, these in North America. So, for example, if it was summer and we could get a hold of Meyer lemons, we may use those as opposed to the regular lemons and not add any sugar, because Meyer lemons are a little bit sweeter than normal. We're going to be using 100% California extra virgin olive oil, and of course the star of the show, the pistachios, which are also 100% California pistachios, the best pistachios in America. The best pistachios in the world, if you know anything about pistachios, are Persian or Iranian pistachios. There is no comparison, head and shoulders above the rest. Sicilian pistachios are very good as well, but we use California. And then, of course, we're going to finish it off with some fresh chives and some additional grated Parmigiano-Reggiano, and, of course, a little bit of salt and pepper. So, let's get to making the pesto. All right, my Italian food fanatics, we're going to make the pesto in my blender. I'm going to take a lemon, and I'm actually going to use a zester and really zest it well and into the bowl of the blender. Now, it's difficult for me to show you this from this angle, so let me do this. as long as we don't shake the camera. I actually prefer to do this into the blender because if you can notice, when you do pierce the skin of the lemon, you're going to get all those volatile oils coming out. So that's the reason why. You don't want to waste any of that stuff. That's the whole reasoning behind this. And I do this with this particular zester that I've had for more, that I could say is decades, because it doesn't really go into the pith. The yellow color is not diluted by the white of the pith. Now, a lot of so-called experts in culinary arts talk about how the pith is bitter. The pith is not bitter. The pith has no flavor whatsoever. I want you to test these things out for yourself. Go get a lemon and cut off the skin. Take a vegetable peeler like we did earlier, and then pull the pith up and taste the pith. And you'll see that the pith has zero flavor at all. They say that it's bitter. It's when the skin is pierced and damaged in this way, it mixes together, and those compounds form other compounds that some of them are bitter. That's where we get the bitterness in the zest. So the bitterness is actually in the zest and not in the pith. So don't believe what these people just say. It's cut and paste in all these cookbooks, and no one ever does any testing on their own, and it's ridiculous. Okay? They're just turning around. They want to save time, and they make these cookbooks that are ridiculous with information that's not true, and you deserve to be told the truth. So there we go. I'll be back when we're going to put our other ingredients in the blender. All right, so our zest is in the blender. I'm going to add that a little bit of sugar. We're going to add our nuts, and we're going to take our Parmesan, and I'm just squeezing it in there. Now we're going to add the oil in as this blends up. All right. I'm going to go a little bit light here on the salt in the beginning, and the reason for that is because the Parmesan already has some salt. We can always add salt. Remember, you can't take salt out. So there's a little bit of salt, and I'm going to grate in a little bit of fresh pepper. All right, and now we'll take this onto the base and blend it up, and then slowly add in our oil. What we're looking for is not really a soupy texture, but more of a sandy, almost quick, like a wet sandy texture. We'll be back. All right, my Italian food fanatics, we are back. We have our accoutrement inside of the blender. I'm going to add a little bit of that California olive oil to get us started a little bit. I'm going to start on a low speed. And you can see how the texture is somewhat pebbly now. I'm going to add in a little bit of olive oil. And continue to mix. And you can see that little bit of olive oil actually causes everything to liquidize a little bit more. I'm going to press down those solids into the blades, and we'll be right back. All right, they've been pressed down, and we're going to start again. I'm going to add in a little more olive oil. And that gets us to the texture that we want. Gonna ramp it up a little bit. I'm going to turn it off, and I'm going to now press down more of those solids. We still have some of these solids left on the sides. down. And there we go. That's essentially the texture that we're looking for. It's not totally liquidized. It's somewhat pebbly and sandy, but kind of in the middle of the pebbly and sandy and liquidized that we want. So we'll be back. I wanted you to see the inside there. See, that's what you're kind of looking for. All right. It's going to nicely coat the pasta, you'll see. Let's give it a real quick taste, and I'll be back. All right, so let's give this a taste real quick. See the texture of it? It's pretty thick. Oh boy, that tastes fantastic. Incredible. Incredible. In fact, I'm going to add a little bit of lemon juice to this to create an acid balance. Oh, geez, that's good. As it continues to go into, as I continue to taste it, it's just phenomenal. Let's add a little bit of brightness with some lemon juice. All right, the best lemons to use are ones that have been already zested, because you're going to get more yield out of them. In fact, and just a little bit. We don't want too much. About maybe a tablespoon. And now I'm going to put it back on the machine real quick. And we'll blend it a little bit more. Just a little bit. You don't want this to overmix and get hot, right? That's it. Now, get a fresh spoon and we'll taste again. That's that. Wow. Even better. I'm going to add some more juice in there. And we'll give it another blending up. Give it another taste. That's it. Even better. Doesn't need anything except maybe a tiny bit of salt. Blend again. Get a fresh spoon. Here we go. Now that's perfect. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. All right. Let's go mince the chives, get ready, and then cook this pasta. Now, let's mince these chives. I'm going to take the ends off like this as well. Since it's for you guys, I'm going to just use only the soigné parts, like even that one that's kind of a little bit mixed up. We're not going to use. We'll cut those in half, and that way it halves our work as well. So if we mince these very, very fine, they're going to look excellent on top of this pasta, which is going to have the yellowish and other green colors and stuff like that. But the flavor of these chives mixed in with that, and then of course a little bit more Parmesan, is going to be super soigné. Styling. And there we go. That should do it. So we'll reserve those. And now we'll turn our attention to making the pasta and incorporating the pesto. You'll see. All right, my Italian food fanatics, you can see that our water has come to a boil. I will now take the lemon zest out. There's one more left in there. All right, and we'll add in a little bit of salt. Is there a little more zest? Oh, there's a little tiny piece, but it doesn't really matter. We'll add in a little bit of salt. It's actually more than I normally use, and the reason for that is because the pasta is going to spend very little time in the water. And so the water has to be have a higher salinity than normal. This is going to go very, very fast. All right, so now I have the fresh pasta. And we're going to put it in. How sweet it is. Give it a little bit of a mix. Just so it doesn't stick. And now this is literally going to take 2 minutes. By the time the water comes back to the boil, this pasta is going to be ready. Almost. It's almost coming back to a boil now. That's the other reason for using a small amount of water, because it's going to take less time for the water to actually come back up to a boil than it would if you're using a large pot of water. We'd be sitting here waiting for days for it to come back. We'll be back. All right, my Italian food fanatics. Our pasta is ready. Look at that. How sweet it is. There's nothing more satisfying than making the pasta yourself and then making a nice condimente or sauce to go along with it. We're just going to give that a little bit of a mix up again. I'm going to pour this pesto onto there, and we'll reserve the rest. I'm going to make more of this a little bit later for some friends. So it gets mixed into there. Oh, look how beautiful that is. We'll add a little bit of this pasta water in here. That's just to thin it out a little tiny bit. Just a tiny bit. Mix that in there some more. And wow. Let's plate this thing up. Be back. Hello, my Italian food fanatics. Well, this is the moment of truth. I've got the fork, I've got the pasta, and let's see what this is going to bring us. I really love all types of pasta. I especially like fresh pasta, and you saw the way that we made it today with a rolling pin. You don't need anything else. You can tell my mouth is watering because I know it's coming. So let's just taste this. Man. Obviously, it's more like fettuccine, but I've rolled it so thin that, I don't know, there's just something about a very, very thin, fresh pasta that I particularly love. And I like odd shapes as well, so long as they are symmetrical and they can cook at the same rate. I don't like thick parts and really, really thin parts, because then you get either underdone and overdone at the same time, or totally overdone and blown out. It's just not worth it, in my opinion. But boy, is this good. Let me tell you. The pistachios. I don't know about you, but I love pistachios. And they go excellent with lemon. And then with those chives in there, and of course the olive oil, and the Parmesan, and that lemony flavor comes through. It's not too strong. It's not sour. It's just there in the background. It complements everything. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Oh, you gotta make this. Come on. A little flour, a couple of eggs, little bit of water, little bit of elbow grease. It's going to take 10 minutes to knead the flour, to knead the pasta. Then you're going to roll it out. That takes a few minutes after it's rested. Then you make the pesto. I mean, the pesto is nothing to make. You just have to get the ratios right. And you saw the way that I tasted and then added and blended and stuff like that. That's the way you cook, all right? Unless you have an exact recipe. But because these are natural products, an exact recipe will never help you. Why? One lemon's bigger than the other. One lemon's more sour than the other at different times of the year. I do the zesting differently than you do the zesting. My blender's different from your blender, or you're using a food processor, I'm using a blender, or you want to make it by hand. These are all factors that affect the final product. So it's best to be able to taste and go forward as you do. Come on. That's really, really good. You got to try this. Come on. Stop watching me eat. Go make it. Talk to you later. Thanks. By the way, thumbs up, subscribe, leave a comment, share, do all the things that I need you to do so that I can continue to do this for you, because I love to do it. Every day I love what I do. My life is filled with everything that I love to do. How sweet it is. And I hope yours is the same. Thanks for watching. Thanks for commenting. Thanks for liking and subscribing. I'll see you soon. Appreciate it.